Hi.
Hey, how are you? How are you? How are you?
How are you?
No complaints. Everything is everything. How are you?
I am doing well. Well, thank you so much for joining Black Cinema Now, Mr. London Brown.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Absolutely.
My pleasure. We couldn't be happier to have you tonight. So we want to get right into it with you. Is that okay?
Sure. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So now, London, you got your start as a comedian and then you transitioned into acting. What made you decide to make that move?
Well, initially was I started with theater first professionally, and then went to stand up. So by the time the TV stuff came around, that transition was pretty seamless because it was kind of going right back to the groundwork of everything anyway. Even with stand up, that transition from theater to stand up was seamless because stand up really is just like a one man play anyway. So so everything is it's almost like everything happened kind of in order the way it was supposed to. And so when the TV came around, I did have to adjust from playing the ideas of like theaters, like really over the top, and even with stand up, we are all over the stage, but making the adjustment from going very big to learn to play in the frame was an adjustment that I was able to kind of figure out and learn on my first TV show called The Hustle. And so shout out to Prentice Penny, the director or the creator of that show, who decided to give me a shot so that I can learn my ropes around with TV coming from stand up.
Awesome. So much experience. So that, needless to say, kind of led to where you are today, which is now part of a major series, Ballers. You landed a major role in that series. So for the viewers who aren't too familiar with Ballers, can you talk a little bit about what the show is about and then what your character Reggie brings to the show?
So for those who don't know, Ballers was an HBO series starring with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, along with a lot of other names on the show. But basically, the show just captures the life of athletes outside of the game of football. So it's not like just like a football jock show. It's definitely more than that. We cover relationships, dealing with finances, the ups and downs of the game, and handling your business, your financial business. And on the show, my best friend, also my cousin, makes it to the NFL, plays for the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm his guy who rolls with him. In the process, I'm also trying to protect him. I'm very protective of my boy. And Dwayne Johnson's character is trying to cut deals with him while cutting me out because he feels like my character is a nuisance. And it starts off like that in season 1, where my character is the antagonist. But by season 5, we're able to see an arc in my character, and he starts to really actually learn all. In season 1, he was just kind of BSing his way around, but by season 5, he actually is handling his business. So I think people might enjoy the transition that my character makes.
Okay. Do you think we might be able to see the show turned into a movie, maybe something like that? I think that would be really creative.
That would be really creative, and that'd be another check. I would like for them to go ahead and work that one out. That'd be great. I mean, fortunately, a lot of the actors are still working on other things, but if they decide to call us back and say, "Yo, let's get this film going," I'm like, "Yo, let's do that. That would be great." Okay. Especially also too because the fans, the way the show ended, it was just kind of abrupt.
Yes.
So I think it'd be a nice way to just close out the chapter of Balls for the fans of the show. So we'll see.
Absolutely. I think that would be. I think you guys, not you personally, it wasn't your decision, but they owe it to the fans. We need.
I know. That's what I feel like, man. I think it'd be cool. Man. It'd be nice.
For sure. So you mentioned The Hustle, which is actually where you kind of got your start from. It's a little bit smaller, and it landed you your roles on Ballers. Yeah. How did you feel making such a big leap from The Hustle to such a major platform now, like HBO?
As far as how I felt, I think with Ballers, I knew the exposure that was about to come with it, and I knew that Ballers was going to put me where the hope was at the time, that Ballers would put me in a position where I could just be an artist and just live off the art, and
Yeah.
that's what, and it did that for me, which I'm really grateful for. But like again, coming from my theater background, everything seemed like the steps were just ordered. So coming from theater, that's where I developed my stage presence, which was what I was going to use, or what I was going to need when playing across from someone like Dwayne Johnson, because obviously Dwayne Johnson is 6'5", 2 something, whatever he is.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not that. But on screen, I think the thing that saved me with playing across from him was my stage presence with his energy, and I think it worked. And again, The Hustle, that TV show was like a prerequisite or a crash course for learning to do this thing called acting on screen, so that by the time Ballers came around, I was ready to roll, and I was set, I was locked in, because I had bumped my head a couple of times with the first TV show, and so I just feel like, and not to get all deep, but I just feel like God just set it up and he timed it out so that everything would fall in place. Like The Hustle, we only did one season, and we did one season, 6 episodes. And when that show ended, we had nice ratings on Views. We had #1 at one point. So I was like, why did it end? But I think it ended because I wasn't supposed to go for another season or two, because Ballers was already waiting for me. So for me, it was pretty smooth. The transition was pretty smooth.
Blessings on blessings. And I love what you mentioned, that your steps were ordered. So yeah. Absolutely. So speaking of working opposite Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he's a major force in the Hollywood realm. And, some would consider you somewhat of a newcomer. I mean, you have had many roles before landing this major one, but what was it like for you? And you kind of hit on this a bit, but just talk about it a little bit more for us, to be that newcomer stepping on the set of an HBO series like Ballers, and to share scenes with, someone as huge as Dwayne. Do you feel like you were prepared, or do you think in working with him and growing with him in those scenes, you kind of got used to it and were able to relax a little bit more into the role?
For me, it was my only concern was just making sure that, on set every day, that I was very prepared, so that I don't want to be the guy on set everybody was waiting on to get the cue lines together. I didn't want to be that guy. But it all kind of worked out. Like Reggie was only supposed to be that character's only supposed to exist maybe like a couple episodes initially, the way they wrote him in. Yeah. So when I went from a reoccurring part on the show to one of the stars of the show, that first season, they was writing stuff in as I was on set. I was improvising a lot. They was keeping a lot of the material, asking me questions about the direction about Reggie and some my ideas, and we was working with each other on that. And so I was, honestly, man, I was ready. I was like, I know I had been in the gym. I had been training for this. So when the part came up, even during the audition process, I made sure I was well equipped and I knew my material. This way, by knowing my lines and everything very well, it allowed me to be very present and improvise very quickly, because I was so well prepared the night before. But also just in my life, I was prepared for this. I had manifested it. So things that, like I said, things lined up for me pretty nicely. So I'm just glad. I'm glad I had favor going into that project.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, and truthfully, you honestly, it sounds like you work hard, and honestly, from what I gather, it sounds like you deserve such a wonderful opportunity, and we are absolutely looking forward to the rest of what God has in store for you. So thank you for sharing that a bit with us. We appreciate that.
Absolutely.
For sure. So now you are like you mentioned, you were perceived as the antagonist of the series. We're talking about Ballers. So a lot of fans, you know, weren't feeling you like that. They weren't feeling your character, Reggie, like that. So you kind of joined the ranks of those like Molly from Insecure. You know, we ain't feeling her right now. What was it like playing a character who, you know, most people weren't feeling? You know, was that difficult at all playing the bad guy for you?
For me, I didn't mind it because I knew it was just acting. So for me, I was glad people didn't like the character. I was just glad people had any sort of interest
Yeah.
in the character because uh, if good or whether people liked the character or not, you were watching.
Right.
And fortunately, playing opposite Dwayne um, was a great setup for me because people noticed me even if they weren't trying to.
Yeah.
So that worked in my favor. I mean, in fact, season one, I got a few threats because people just didn't understand the difference. I remember I was getting some shoes, and some guy walked up to me. Why you spending your friend money? I was like, what?
What?
You just signed a deal. Don't be trying to spend. I was like, oh man, that's the show, bro. That's not because black people don't know. We don't have no turn on switch. A lot of us, we just whatever you are is what you are, and that they mad. But overall, that was also the flip was that because I was so hated in season one, again, it allowed the writers to create, and we were building more content for the following seasons. And part of the content was also just arcing Reggie into something totally different from season one to season five. And as an actor, that's something that we can appreciate are those kind of transitions because it gives us something else to play. So I embraced it because, like again, it kept me around because the character was interesting, and I couldn't ask for anything more than that. If you can't be the hero, the antagonist is the next best thing. So
Yeah,
I'm blessed that it worked out for me that way.
for sure. Definitely love. You're one of the characters we love to hate.
Yeah,
So
right, right, right.
that's always a good thing. That's always a good thing. So speaking of making a transition, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your latest role in the horror film Tales from the Hood 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that premieres this week, actually. Okay. Now you play the character David in one of the tales. Could you give us a brief synopsis about that particular storyline and how David now plays a role in this trilogy?
So basically, for those who may not know about Tales from the Hood, the first set or installment of it came out in the '90s, and so what it is basically is like 4 short stories that complete a whole story or whole film. And in this third installment, my character David plays like property manager, and he's basically trying to get all the tenants to move out because he wants to tear it down and build some bigger property for more funds in his selfishness. And one of the tenants, they can't move because they have a child that's going through chemotherapy. My character David is not caring about none of that, and he sets up some stuff to get them to move out abruptly. Things go terribly, tragically wrong, and their spirits come back to take vengeance on my character David. So it's it's like I said, it's pretty good timing for Halloween, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it has some touches of the old Tales from the Hood is mixed with some new stuff. And I think my particular story, because I haven't seen it yet, but from what I remember from reading the script, I think it's good. It's timely because more than being scared of anything else, I hope people are able to walk away with understanding that it's never good to be selfish because things like karma, that it swings back around. So hopefully, people can do things with their heart in the right place if that helps any.
For sure. Absolutely. We're looking forward to it. And not only that, but Tales from the Hood is a cult classic. You know what I mean? It's definitely one of those cult classics.
Right.
And it reminded us of some of the injustices actually that people of color face. Like it actually had a lot of messages, a lot of underlying, sometimes right in your face storylines that dealt with that sort of thing. So can we expect that same energy from this third installment?
I think so. I mean, I believe so because again, especially with the pandemic and things like that going on right now, I think it's easy for a lot of people to find reasons to complain.
Yeah.
Like for example, I do things to make sure that I keep my heart in check. Because if not, I can easily get into a thing of like, man, I can't go to restaurants no more, and I wish I could go to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
But while I'm fussing about those things that I feel to be an inconvenience to me, I'm also thinking about, though I can't go to the restaurant because of the pandemic, I think about, man, those workers at that restaurant who lost their jobs. But then I'm also going even further than that, which is the homeless people who used to eat the leftovers from the throwaways from the restaurant. So it's so many different levels to consider before we start thinking about ourselves. And I just try to do my part to always keep myself in check so I don't get caught up in thinking, finding negatives and complaining. There are people who I've been blessed enough not to have COVID, but there are people going through COVID situations, the people around them having it, and I've had some friends who have it. So, you know, I'm going back to work, you know, in a couple of days. I can't really complain about much anyway. So, hopefully, like I said, people pull some of that from the film and remember how to always keep themselves in check when we start with everything that's going on today.
That's beautiful, honestly. And thank you for that reminder. Like, that is definitely a reminder for us all before we start to drift off and start complaining about those little things that we honestly take for granted. You got to stop and think about what's really going on in the world right now. The world's outside of your home, outside of your four walls. It's crazy out there.
Right.
And we cannot take that for granted. So every morning when you're getting up and you're going to work, doesn't matter what job you have, whether you're an actor, whether you're a doctor or garbage man, you know, we have to be grateful and stay in that mindset. I feel like that's the only way we're going to kind of come out of this pandemic positively and having learned something through all of this.
Right on. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we are seeing a rise of Black leads in horror films, and I am so here for it. I'm loving it. I'm hoping that's something that you've noticed too. Is horror or just anything of the sort a genre that you ever saw yourself being a part of?
What do you say? Is there a particular genre that I thought I would saw myself?
Horror, that
Oh,
horror genre of film in particular.
you know, this is what I thought about too, because I'm glad that Jordan Peele was able to create movies like Us and so forth that brought the horror aspect to it, but in a more grounded way, featuring us. Because someone was asking me the other day about how I felt about Black people in horror films, and like their argument, or not their argument, but their suggestion was that, you know, Black people aren't in them enough. But also, we have to realize too that some of the reasons that we really enjoy horror films is also cultural in the way that we respond to them. Meaning, if you were to replace some of these classic white horror films with Black actors, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work, not because we couldn't perform well, but it wouldn't work because the way they get scared is not the same way Black people get scared. We on a totally, our IQ when it comes to being afraid is on a different level. And I don't even mean to get this deep, but Black people on a regular basis, right? Black people on a regular basis, we have to deal with, we're always on guard because we're always, we have to be on guard because we're always, at any point, we can be subject to some sort of threat on some sort of level. So we're being guarded. So our IQ and awareness is a lot sharper. So to try to put us in some of them same classic films, like Jason and so forth, we know, like, for example, you'll see the classic shot of a white young lady approaching her house and the door is open, and she'll then proceed to go inside and ask, is anybody in there? Hello? Come out wherever you are, wherever it is. And she walked throughout the house in the dark looking for whomever might be in the home. Right there, we have to rewrite it. Black people are not walking in no house with the door open. It's just not. And even if we do, we turn on all the lights. We grabbing a knife or something to hit somebody with if we in there. So I like the fact that now with some of the Black horror films, they're just grounding them a lot more closer to our reality, so that so that they resonate with us in a different kind of way. So I'm all for the horror films and leading that or whatever that is, as long as the material is very grounded. Hey, I'm on board. I can see the vision. I'm gonna manifest everything. So that definitely works for me.
I love it. I love that explanation. It is so real, and you are absolutely right. I love that this new Black horror film, or horror genre, I should say, is so grounded in realism, because there are just certain things that as Black people innately we're just not going to do. We're just not going to react a certain way. And
Right.
for us to see ourselves on film portrayed so accurately, I love it. I love it so
Yeah,
much.
absolutely.
So you are also cast with a horror icon, Tony Todd from Candyman, and Lynn Whitfield, who also played in the unconventional horror Eve's Bayou, another classic. Do you have any interactions with these legends, and did you pick up on any gems from them?
No, I think no, to your question, no, because I think how it was set up and shot, we just had different shooting schedules.
Okay.
My stuff was shot. I think they shot the whole thing in Winnipeg, Canada. It was cold and it was snowing and everything else. So I just think we didn't get a chance to interact because our schedules were different. I would have loved to have sat down to speak with them, especially Lynn Winfield, because I'm a big fan. I was a big fan of hers when she did Thin Line Between Love and Hate with Martin. That was where, to me, I still see that character somewhere in there. I mean, she just did a great job playing like the big girlfriend, so forth, and her skills alone. I saw at some point we didn't cross paths this time, but I'm sure I'm gonna manifest it too. I'm sure I'm gonna connect with both of them and a couple other names as well.
Well, I'm gonna believe that, and I'm gonna receive it with you and for myself as well. How about that?
That's it.
So now we peep that you are overall very creative. You have a passion for photography. Is that a skill that you've always had a passion for?
It's a skill I've always been able to appreciate before I started shooting. I'm definitely a fan of photography and just always dug. I'm an artistic kind of guy anyway, so I appreciate all kinds of art and all forms of art. I started getting into photography when I could afford to buy a camera. At the time, I was touring on the road with Chris Tucker as the opener. I saved up my little funds and went and bought me a camera. And I just really started out by just shooting the homeless, because the homeless, my stakes were low, if you will, meaning I didn't want to go out and start shooting my friends and calling myself a photographer, and then I'm messing up shots because I ain't got my skills down right. So I just went out to go photograph people who didn't mind me doing it, and so I do a lot of homeless work anyway. So I was feeding the homeless at the time, and then I asked them if I could take a photo. We have conversations first, and then I get the photo, which started to prompt me to want to do a book of photography, basically images of homeless people, as a coffee book, so that people can just be reminded about, it's not about us, it's about other people, and trying to do that. And so some of the proceeds will go right back to them, doing things that would help the homeless. But now, I mean, I did a photo shoot the other day for somebody, and maybe even one tomorrow. So I enjoy it if I can use it, because if I can use it to help someone else, then that's the bigger reward, because I realize that our gifts are not for us. So once we understand that our gifts aren't for us, then it allows us to want to use them for service for other people, and that's the biggest thing I try to do.
That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful and so well put. And like you said, that's why they're called gifts. It's because they're meant to share with other people. I think God gives us the talent. He gives us the talent so that we can hone it, harness it, and then gift it to somebody else. Use those talents as a gift for somebody else. So that's beautiful. Well said. Now, London, do you have any projects that you're working on? Any passion projects that you can share with us that are coming up now or maybe in the future?
Yeah, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna pick back up on finishing this series I started right before the pandemic, like in February early this year. We got one episode done, pandemic hit, so I want to go back to finish working on that, and there are a couple other things just in the works, and some of these things just haven't been released yet. And I'm sure hopefully I'll be back and talk about those things. But yeah, like I said, fortunately I've been able to continue working, so I'm just ready to get back to that and keep it going.
Excellent, excellent. So, London, we actually have a fan question for you. So I'm gonna shoot this question to you right from a fan. So they wanted to know about your experience working with the Tate brothers on the film Back to the Good Life, where you played Kyla Pratt's love interest and childhood friend Bobby. What was that experience like for you?
Okay, somebody trying to act like they care about me. No, I appreciate it. So Back to the Good Life. What was cool about that was when they called and they offered me the part. I took a look at the script, and they told me that they were familiar with my work from Ballers. So I was glad because I was a fan of the Tate brothers anyway, and especially Lorenz Tate. Lorenz Tate has always just been one of those young black actors I feel is still slept on. I mean, he don't get me wrong, he's always working.
Yeah.
But if we lived in a different world, Lorenz Tate would be what Tom Cruise is to our society. Like Lorenz Tate is,
I agree.
He's cold with it, man. So anyway, I've been a fan of Lorenz Tate since since Minister Society, some early stuff. But working with those guys, all the brothers, they were Lorenz, Laurent, all of them. They were just super cool, no ego, nothing weird. They embraced me and took me in on that film, and we still talk to this day. They were just cool, man. There's nothing like, because sometimes, man, people get funny. People be acting funny or something. These dudes had none of that. It wasn't no ego, none of that on set. The director, Tamika, she was good, and Kyla, no ego. Kyla was super cool. Like, that's the thing. When I get on a project, I'm always checking the temperature of everybody's seat. Like where everybody is. People cast was cool, man. We filmed it in Atlanta, and it was just love, man. They was open to whatever improv and I was doing on set. I remember Lorenz came on set and we spoke, and he was just kind of just giving me his words and his advice and angles, and he was like, man, this is like your, if you will, like your baby step into your version of Love Jones. It's like the romantic comedy, and it's back and forth. So like I said, that is a setup. I can't wait to do that idea on a bigger level, because I love Love Jones. That's one of those films. Like, every guy wants to be Darius. That's just one of those projects. But yeah, it was good, man. I think whoever that was to ask, they were good. It was number love to everybody who worked on that project. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that was a great film. I actually wrote about that film. That was one of the first film reviews I ever wrote, was for that film. So this is a full circle moment for me right now. Thank you.
That's dope.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. So this is one of my favorite questions. It's a question that hits home for me. I would love to know, okay, giving each other our flowers is a trend that I'm seeing popular now on social media, where we're saying, such and such deserve their flowers right now while they're still here. So with that being said, is there anyone that you could think of, it doesn't have to be a famous person, anyone famous or otherwise, that you feel deserves their flowers right now today while they're still here?
Yes. Man, it's so many, but some of the people that deserve the flowers, and I usually try to be pretty good at this, where I don't really wait no more. I call people up and say, thank you for investing your time and energy into me and giving me a shot, and I try to do that. But I still always do it for my mother. My mother, I appreciate my mother for even, because sometimes I hear stories about cats who try to pursue their artistic adventures, and they got people in their house telling them they ain't gonna never go, they will never make it, and they're untalented. I didn't grow up in that kind of house. My family was very supportive. When I was doing my little high school plays, they came out to see me. My church friends came out to see me. I had a lot of people that were very positive about, and in fact, encouraged me to do stand up and to get into this. So I want to shout out, my mom for, always praying for me and supporting whatever it is I wanted to do, whether she could or not financially. I didn't even need it like that. Her praying for me was very critical for me, just so that I can navigate and not be having to compromise what I'm about to make these moves. So,
Wow.
yeah, I give my mother her flowers while she's here, and for holding me down. And then, of course, my family, but anybody out next to that who has been encouraging. I thank folks all the time, because I know people talk to me. They ain't got to speak to me on the street and ask for a picture or whatever it is. I'm not a big deal like that yet, but it's cool that people even take time to mess with me. So, shout out to everybody.
Awesome, awesome. That is beautiful, London. I cannot thank you enough for joining us this evening. I hope you had a great time. We certainly did.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you taking time to talk to me. Thank you.
What? Of course, of course. London, can you please shout out anywhere and everywhere we can follow you on social media?
Yes, I'm at Real London Brown. At Real London Brown. That's here, Snapchat, or Twitter, and so forth. And yeah, catch me on Instagram. I'm around. I'm always going live and cooking and interacting with my followers. So it's a good time on my page, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely, our pleasure. And then also drop for us one more time when we can actually catch Tales from the Hood 3.
Yes, you can catch Tales from the Hood 3 right now, and I think in a couple weeks, maybe next week, you'll catch it on Sci-Fi, but it's DVD, Blu-ray, and I'm sure it'll be streaming and all that stuff before Halloween. So just be on the lookout for it now, and catch that, and keep your eye out for some other stuff coming up.
Awesome. Fantastic. London, I can't thank you enough. I want to thank all of you who tuned in with us tonight. Make sure you're following London on social media. He is amazing. He's got so much coming up, so much in store. Make sure you're following Black Cinema now. Make sure you're following me, your girl Neonna, at HwoodGems. And we'll see y'all next time. Thank you, London.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.